I love it.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yay.
Happy Monday.
It's Monday already again,
It is.
which
We are
is
just,
always crazy how quick it comes.
yeah, charging into August. That's crazy. Looking at my August
Yes.
calendar.
And school. So good morning, you guys. It's always takes us a little bit to make sure that we're on. Our stream is good. Last week we lost it right in the middle of the juicy stuff. And I want to make sure we're still on live. So
I'm,
Jamie, I'll let you check.
yep,
Um,
we're there.
So all my buttons say we're live. Good morning, you guys. Welcome to She's Velvet Steel Coffee Talk Live. This is our opportunity to hang out with you guys every Monday to just reconvene. And what's interesting is every Monday morning, Jamie and I always huddle before this, and we were just talking, and there's always a battle we've all fought the week prior, right? After we hung up Coffee Talk last Monday and every day in between up till today, we've all fought some sort of battle. And just what a beautiful thing it is to come back together and reconvene, recalibrate, reload our tools for our fight. I got my hat backwards today because I'm in fight mode for this week for my family. But I'm Jen. I'm joining you from Missoula, Montana. And that's
Jamie from Billings.
Jamie's joining you from Billings. And we would love to know, have you been on a SVS Coffee Talk? So if you haven't, we'd love to know. So if this is your first time, just go ahead and put first in the comments. If you've never watched this, for our replay viewers, our live viewers, anybody that's watching it, if this is your first time, go ahead and drop first in the comments below so that we know. We're just so excited. We love seeing new people jump on here with us. So we've got a lot planned for you guys today and a lot of stuff that's been on our heart. And we're actually just talking about, and actually, you know what I'm going to do real quick. And if you guys can do it too, I'm going to jump on my Facebook and share this video before I forget, because I want some of my friends to be able to watch this as well. So I'm going to jump on my little phone, click the share button. Super easy. Done?
Yeah.
Done. All right. That way everybody knows we're on there. So we were just talking before we jumped on here about we're both doers. We're both like, get her done. I have kids. I have 5 kids, 4 boys and a girl. And we don't really have an option. We got to get stuff done, right? And sometimes there's that philosophy of vulnerability. That's going to slow me down. Jamie, you guys have kids too. Tell me how many kids you guys have.
We have 4 boys, ages 3 to 15.
4 boys, 3 to 15. So any prayer warriors out there, take a moment of silence to pray for us mamas of boys, teenager boys, right? We'd love to know, how many kids do you have? Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to know how many kids you have. So let me back up real quick before we jump into this vulnerability subject and let you guys know, if this is your first time watching, what in the world is She's Velvet Steel? We want to share with you our heart and our vision statement, because that really will make all the sense in the world on where we're headed today. So Jamie, do you have that?
I do. She lives loved. She is unshakable in her pursuit of purpose. She's free. She's Velvet Steel. That's our vision statement.
I love it. So she lives loved. And she is unshakable. So that means that she does not blow with the winds of change and the winds of life that happen to all of us and will continue to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's pursuing the purpose that God has laid out for her.
Yeah.
And then in the end, that brings freedom, right? So the Velvet Steel is, what was that?
For her and for others.
Absolutely, for her and for others. So this whole idea that Jamie and I've got some, if you see me looking, I've got some notes because I want to be able to stay on task. I've got our timer set. This whole idea about vulnerability, it's scary. Let's just look at Facebook Live. Those are scary, right? If you've never done a Facebook Live, let us know in the comments below. Raise your hand. The little emoji, raise your hand if you've never done a Facebook Live. Because that's vulnerability right there in itself. Yeah. But I think there's some confusion about what vulnerability is. So Jamie, will you kind of lay it out for us a little bit of the framework of what does vulnerability look like? Because it can be done incorrectly and it can be done correctly, right?
Oh, sure. Well, I think I struggled with the definition of vulnerability for a long time because number one is I'm kind of a no drama girl. I'm not saying that I've never gossiped I'm not going to go there and claim any kind of odd truth like that, but I've never been like a Inquirer or even People Magazine celebrity gossip girl, or even like neighbor gossip. I just am not, I don't know, that's just not it doesn't excite me in any way. And so drama and sharing kind of the junk of life, I think I felt like I feel really deeply. So I've always felt like getting involved in me sharing stuff or other people sharing a lot of junk, especially when it involved other people, I always felt really slimed. And then even me sharing stuff, I always felt like, like that totally drained me. So I think in my head, I've always thought of vulnerability equals negativity, weakness, gossip, complaining, junk. Make you feel like you're slimed. That's how I had it in my mind.
Right.
The words kind of come out thanks to Brene Brown and some of these other thought leaders. The words come out as a positive thing. So I wrestled with that as to what it was, because let's face it, there's a lot of women that we are around on a daily basis that still love to gossip, complain, talk about other people, and they actually like the celebrity gossip. And that's not good or bad or indifferent. I mean, if you like celebrities, cool. It's just, we're around that a lot. And we're around people that on social media that will, hang out their dirty laundry for everybody to see. We can say it that way. And share kind of things that you're like, hey, that probably should have been saved for never. Right. I think the idea that is a myth is that vulnerability is just spewing all over everyone around you the junk in your life.
Right.
I think that's the myth that we're going to address today. And then the converse definition of that is, what is it actually, and what is its real intention and the beauty inside of vulnerability, and then even better, how it's actually foundational as a part of our purpose that God's called us to.
Right. And that really is the key to what we want to unpack today. And I've been there. I've been there on Facebook. Facebook I remember holding out, not getting on. Everybody else was on, and I didn't want to get on. And like with anything, you kind of make mistakes, you share things you feel like maybe you shouldn't have shared, or whatever. But the root of the motivation behind the post is always my litmus test of why am I sharing this? And really what it comes down to is I want to feel loved and I want to belong. I mean, that's a God-given desire. I want to feel loved and I want to belong. It's connecting.
Yeah.
So we as a culture, we want to connect with each other. Yeah. And vulnerability really is the key to connecting. So I don't know if I'll give you guys an example. If you've ever been around somebody that you kind of either put them on a pedestal or they're just untouchable to you, or maybe you've fabricated this whole thing in your head that is not them, but you've placed that on them. And it makes it very hard to create a friendship with them, to learn from them, all of that stuff. But when you see that person come and drop down a veil or share something vulnerable, not dirty laundry, just like hey, gosh, we used to struggle with this in our marriage, a place of victory. We don't now. We used to struggle with this. When someone is vulnerable with you, it drops that wall down. It's like all the wall that you placed in between each other, it drops. And then you're like, wow, she's real. She's real. And what does it do? It helps you connect. So then there's that connection there. And then you've got this circle of influence. Now they're open to your influence. But I want to back up real quick because we brought out some icky stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We brought out the comparison trap.
Yep.
We brought out the disease to please. And we brought out the rejection infection quiz.
Yeah.
So why did we bring out the yuckiness in everybody?
To expose. No, I think because it's a part of this myth with vulnerability. I think that we somehow, especially as women, buy into a belief that until we are at a certain place, or when we become something, then we will have influence. Or when we don't struggle anymore with this, then we can. And we get in our mind that we have to arrive and achieve and become in order to be used, right, by God, or in order to step into our purpose.
Right.
And actually, it's so far from the truth. I mean, if we are Bible readers, I mean, it was no accident that God told us all the stories about their mess. He didn't talk about their victories. He talked about their mess.
Right.
And so, with you talking about the idea, we hear something and there's connecting, it's a trust factor in the connection.
Right.
We will receive from someone, not just when we feel like they're empathizing with us, but when we trust them, because they've been there, done that, like they get it. And so I feel like that myth, aside from the definition of vulnerability, I think the myth that we can't be used because of our mess right now is a lie. And that's exactly where the enemy of our purpose would want us to remain. You can't, you're so messy. Look at you comparing yourself all the time, or, you're still dealing with rejection infection. What's wrong with you, and aren't you old enough now to not have this people pleasing issue? Like you definitely can't be an influencer because you've got issues, and so we exposed it to get real, for one thing, because there's also something to be said that we can't cover up that mess. We can't push it aside as if it's not there and pretend that it isn't, right? And so I think we did want to expose it in some sense, but more with the light. Just bring out, using God and his grace, bring it out into the light so that he can work on it and work in it, but then work through it, which then, like I said, it brings us freedom, but it brings other people freedom. So that's why we brought it out, because we want to go, hey, here's where we're at, but here's what God's going to do with it now, you know?
Well, and those are stories that you and I have shared with each other. And there's stories that, Jamie and I have talked about this so much, the stories that are still in process. Let's face it, we're all in our 40s. Jamie and I are. You guys might be a little bit younger.
Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, you're not. You're 38?
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s.
Your laugh lines are much smoother than mine at 40.
Okay, so we're all in an age bracket where, guess what, guys? We have a lot of living ahead of us, and we have a lot more crap coming. Let's not be ignorant to that. Let's not be ignorant to the fact that we don't have a lot more learning to come. And there's always, like I said at the beginning, from when we hang up this live to the next live, all of you are going to have stuff that happens in your life. Some of it terribly heartbreaking. Yeah. Some of it just annoying. Some of it just interruptions in your life, disruptions in your life. But all of it runs through God's fingers, and he allows it. He doesn't cause it. He allows it. And he's going to use those stories at some point, fashioned as a tool to help somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so instead of being surprised by the things that came last week, being able to see that, like, yep, here we go, what do we need to learn from this? Take a deep breath. But the whole idea of being vulnerable, vulnerable can be that place of shame, fear, your struggle for worthiness, right? Or it can be a place of joy, love, creativity. But we want to be able to equip you guys on what does it look like to be vulnerable? Because here's the big secret that we've been teasing you guys with all week. You have influence. You have influence. Doesn't mean you're outgoing necessarily. Doesn't mean you're an extrovert or an introvert it's not a personality type at all. God created you for influence in your circle of influence and outside of your circle of influence. That is part of your purpose. And so what we want to do, what God's placed on our heart is to bring you through that. First of all, you need to know you're worthy enough to influence others, right, Jamie?
Totally. Yeah. And
it's so hard to influence people when you don't feel good. Like, what do I have to give? I'm a mess, right?
Right. For sure. I think, in fact, I was re-listening to something of Brene Brown. She was talking about, first of all, you're going to be beating yourself up, with what you've done and where you've been. And then once you can kind of get past that, then it's going to be like, well, who are you to say? Those are like the thoughts that we have in our head,
right.
No matter where you are, but it doesn't have to do with us,
Yep.
And so when you talked about the things going through God's hands first, of him allowing things, the cool thing is that it's never, in my mind, I never picture it leaving his hands.
Right.
Like he's allowing it because then he's going to shape it. And you said it, that the story he's creating in our life is going to be fashioned by him then as an instrument for someone else's freedom and your own,
right.
but also shaped into a tool for someone else's victory. Because
Absolutely.
It's going to be your victory and he's going to pass it along. I love the idea that miracles are not the end result. They're a beginning, like miracles are meant to be multiplied. So when he does miracles of transformation through our story, it's meant to be multiplied.
Right.
So
to show his faithfulness. And how often do you hear a story where you're feeling discouraged and you hear a story, someone breaks down that wall, they expose themselves. And again, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the dirty laundry, but they expose themselves in a way that you would have never expected, because you're seeing the end result after that. Not the end result. We're never end result, but the beautiful, miraculous transformation that God has done through their life through that mess. You're seeing that end result.
Yeah.
And so you would never imagine when they break down and they're vulnerable with you and they say, "Let me tell you a story. This is who you see today, but it is by no means not without a struggle and a fight." Yeah. Because let me show you where I was. And to show people where we were is scary as all get out.
Yeah.
And for me, I know for me, there's those voices of, I don't want to go back there. It's easier to ignore where we were. It's easier to just stuff it away and like, I don't want to go back there. Nobody need to know.
Right.
Like, let's just move forward.
Yeah, that's right.
That's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to know that. There's a nervousness that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's one thing about shame, and whether it's stuff that's been done to us or stuff that we've done or just life from a fallen world, the one thing that the enemy would love is for you to think you're alone. Nobody else thinks this way. This has never happened to anybody else. Don't you dare share that story, because they're going to laugh at you. They're going to, So, but there is a difference between sharing a story that's still raw and God is still working through it. Not to say that we can't be public with our process. One thing that I will say about our pastor is he was public with his process of hurt and loss when he lost his daughter. And that was so inspiring to see that public process of grief. But there's a balance there for those of us that want to share with other people and connect with people, of being able to share from a place of victory, of something that's already been through, like processed through with loved ones, from a place of strength. And it's a process, right? Yeah.
So can we break that down? Because I think so. Levi Lusko is our pastor. Jen and I go to Fresh Life churches in 2 different locations. And if you've never heard of Fresh Life, get freshlife.church. Okay, they've got awesome messages. But Levi's story, in a nutshell, with Through the Eyes of the Lion, is that they lost their daughter suddenly to an asthma attack. She was 5, was she? Pretty little. And anyway, there's something very practical about this that I think I struggled with in terms of influence and vulnerability. And even like, when is it okay to just be like, you know, like just let it out and cry it out and have a really ugly cry with someone, because there's a reality that needs to happen too.
Right.
That,
Absolutely.
you know, it's not always hold back and like make it sound pretty, because I don't want to come across in today's talk that we're saying vulnerability is always about talking about victory, because let's just face it, sometimes you don't feel victorious and you can't see it, and there's a heaviness, and it's difficult to even get up. And I can guarantee you that our pastor felt that way. He said it, and he experienced it. And I can guarantee you there were some people that got to see their I can't get out of bed today. There were a select few people that had equity in their relationship, that he could just be, that they were going over there and making sure, hey, it's okay, showing up when he needed it, going into their home, calling, making sure that they're okay, bringing them stuff and taking care of them and taking care of their heart. That select group of people. And I'm sure they saw some ugly crying, you know, and I'm sure they saw some frustration and some massive grieving, right?
Right.
To the church, we also saw a brokenhearted family, you know, but we also saw a choice in the process of brokenheartedness, of like, I'm brokenhearted, but here it is. Right. You know, like, take my brokenheartedness and do with it what you plan to do, you know?
Like what we talked about last week with brokenhearted versus brokenness.
Yeah. So we got to see him in his process, right? And so it was current. It was still fresh and raw, but it was coming from a place of, I'm fresh and raw, but here's where I'm taking it. You know, so it was an encouragement to the rest of us who are going through our own whatever to do the same. So
real quick,
now he can speak from a place of victory.
If you guys have read Through the Eyes of a Lion, drop a bunch of hearts right now as about this. If you've read that book, Through the Eyes of a Lion, that really dives deep into this process of grief. Just drop a bunch of hearts, because that's an amazing book. And as you're speaking about that, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so good. So if we were to go practical and just visually, I'm a visual person. So if we have a very small inner circle of people that have earned our trust and respect, and relationship where they see the core of who we are, right? Those few people then can see the messy moments, and you bring the mess, you know, and you go, you know what, this is too much for me.
Right. You know, work through it together.
I need your prayer. I need your help. You know, that core people. And then there's people that you're in relationship with, that there's been some mutual exchange of some life done together, and you are either being influenced or you're an influencer, right? In those places, you can always live transparent. Being honest, saying, yeah, I got my stuff too, you know, but you don't have to go into full detail all the time with them. Those are the people that you might speak about from a place of victory, you know? I mean, like we do here with She's Velvet Steel. I mean, you haven't heard the worst of Jen and my stories. Because we don't know who's tuning in, you know, like, we're not going to just lay it all out there, because you don't know who we are. We don't know who you are. We don't need to do that. There may be a time and a place when you come into a smaller group where we've got a program going and there's a smaller group of us, that you hear that, because we believe part of that ugliness is meant to be for your freedom. So, and then even further out, like Facebook, like the broad personal profile, if you're a public profile page or whatever, or you have no idea even who you're talking to, and you're just putting it out there, then you'd go even further back from your mess. Right. I may share a little bit of my processing on Facebook, but it's not going to expose my family. It's not going to expose the deepest places of my heart. It's not going to expose in a way to get attention, you know? So there's kind of these layers of vulnerability that need to be applied in our life. And that we need to take into consideration, because I think some people have no problem just laying it all out there all the time, any person. And I feel like we need to kind of pull back some restraint there. And then there's a person that's like, I'm not sharing anything with anyone, you know? So there's kind of this balance. And I feel like if we have that visual of there's an inner circle, there's the next one, and then there's the bigger one, and what's appropriate in those circles, especially speaking social media.
Right.
I feel like social media is going to fall in your outside circle. So
I love how Brene Brown talks about the floodlighting, and the best way to figure out if you're floodlighting is it makes you wince, kind of like a lamp that's shined in your light in your eyes, and you just kind of wince, like if someone's reading it and they're like, ugh, or pictures of things. I know for me, I'm like, ugh, ugh, I don't want to see that. That may be your reality, but it's not mine.
Right. Right.
And it may make them feel good because that's their reality, and they want other people to just be okay with that. But that's floodlighting. That's like, ooh, the wincing. If you've ever seen floodlighting on Facebook, put a little flashlight in the emojis.
Or like a wow face. Yeah. You go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just said that. I wish I could edit that for them.
Right. And then the other one she talks about, and really that's a wince. The response is like a wince, like a ooh, kind of back up. But it was really, we have no connection with these people, and we're sharing something that's super vulnerable. And it's fresh wounds.
Yeah.
The other one is the smash and grab, and that's that oversharing and manipulation of our vulnerability. So I don't know if you've had this in friendships. Close the door, guys. It's a reality of working from home. Thanks. If you've had this with friendships where, you share something that's kind of vulnerable and intimate with them, and they never share anything back, right? It's always this one-way thing of you're sharing, you're exposing, you're being vulnerable, but you never get anything back. Has anybody ever been through that? Have you ever experienced that? What happens to that friendship? It eventually dissolves.
Yeah. I lose trust, because I'm like, no, okay, so they're holding it back. So either they've got a lot of judgment going on in their head right now and they're going to push me away, or like they're telling other people, or I don't know what's going on. Like you just lose trust, it just puts up a wall.
Right. So if that's happened to you guys, just drop a bunch of thumbs up, likes on that. Because I am curious. I've thought about that. We've all had friendships that go through seasons, right? Where you used to be really close with somebody and eventually it just phases out. And I think a lot of the root factor is that trust factor. Once that safety net is gone, I know for me, when that safety net is gone, my walls go whoop, and I am not going to let them back down once I feel like that safety net is gone, which has so much to do with vulnerability and connection and trust, all of the stuff we're talking about. But yeah, the smash and grab is like a manipulation tool, using vulnerability as a manipulation tool. And that's a whole nother subject. We won't even go down there. So we talked about what it looks like, really sharing from that solid ground. But like Jamie talked about, it doesn't mean that we're always just going to be vulnerable with things that we're okay with. We've arrived there. We're never really arrived in any area. But making sure you protect yourself, that you're not sharing from a heart that's still super painful, because what you do is you give the enemy a stronghold to come in and continue that pain. If you haven't allowed God to completely heal you yet.
For sure. Reagan brought up a comment right here, which, by the way, hearts for Reagan and Gretchen. Reagan was in Mexico, which we love. Gretchen's been busy working and being mom this summer with her kids in the Seattle area. But we miss them. We look forward to talking with them and being all together. But
shout out to Gretchen for kids going back to school soon, right?
She can do a little less multitasking.
A few nucks.
That's right. Megan said something that I think is the reality too that we need to face when it comes to vulnerability. Okay. She said maybe sharing on Facebook says more about us having a lack of those real friendships, that we can be vulnerable in those places. And so we use the wrong space to share, because you said it, we were built and wired for connection.
Yep. Love and belonging.
Have that, then you're going to seek it somewhere, or, use the wrong places and spaces to create it. And as influencers, I would venture to say that God will never fully be able to use you in the influence that he desires until you have some people in some places that are influencing you, and that you can mutually influence each other and be vulnerable, all veiled down, all masks off. That there's they know the core of who you are, because it's a protection for you.
Right.
Protection for you. And so I think that's a great point, Reagan. And something to kind of bring this all full circle. We said you're made.
Our time's up. So let's bring it full circle and wrap it up.
Right. So you are made for connection. You are made to be an influencer.
Yes.
In order to have those two things, you must become vulnerable. Now, there's a time and a place for that. And in order for you to be fully vulnerable, you need to have an inner circle. And then when it comes to your influence, sharing from a place of victory. So we've got kind of these key pieces here. And there's probably something that you relate to. Like, one, I'm not sure if I feel like I'm an influencer. That's something that it's going to be our mission to make sure you understand that, because it's not.
Hey, you are.
Yeah, it's not a calling, okay? It's not a position. It's like God said, you are. Go be.
You are.
It's just our reality. We're an influencer. And so we're going to get you there if you don't believe that. I think we all know we need connection, but maybe you're starting to realize I'm kind of starving for that kind of connection. I'm starving for that inner circle. Well, let me say this. It's going to start with you stepping out first. Sometimes it's that way. It's going to start with you opening up first to some people, allowing them the ability to hear your heart and trust you, right? Sometimes it does put you in an awkward position. Maybe it's the position that Jen was saying, where they're not mutually giving it back. You're going to have to take that risk in order to get to that place in a relationship. And so maybe that's what's speaking to you today. If I need that inner circle. You know, or maybe you're like, oh gosh, I've been saying way too much to too many people and I kind of like it. You know, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, some of you probably like it, and that's fine. Like, just because I'm not that girl, it's not because I feel like I'm better than you in any way. I don't know. That's just not how I've been wired. Thank God. I mean, I have my own issues. I've got a lineup of stuff God's got to work on. So I'm just really glad that that's not one that he's working on with me. But if that's what he's working on with you, about, you know, what you're saying and to who and how you're saying it and how you're using your words and framing the story of your life, maybe that's what's speaking to you. And so maybe you're redefining some vulnerability, and maybe you're going to have to practice some restraint and change some things, right? So there's lots of different places that you could take this today in terms of what you needed. But the truth is just like our vision statement says, living loved is being okay. What does Brene Brown says? It's like having the courage to let go of who you think you should be and being okay with who you are. That's part of living loved. Letting go of who you think you should be so that you can be okay with who you are. And then being unshakable in your pursuit of purpose is knowing you're meant for influence. And so you got to be intentional about that,
right?
Which means including vulnerability in your life. So we're going into this season now. We're kind of, we said last week we were changing where we were going, and that's where we're going, is in this, hey guys, guess what? You're influencers. God's going to use our mess, and we're going to turn it into this story. And
heart. Yes.
Yep. So now we get to go there. We get to go there with you. And so we're turning the corner, taking the bend here, and moving into building you up as the influencer that you were created to be.
Yes. So good. It's so good. All right. We better hang up. So meet us here next Monday. We've got, we're going to keep unpacking this and really dive into what that looks like in your home, in your marriage, with your kids. How are you influencing your husband? How are you influencing your children? Because it's not just influencing outside of your home. It really starts with that influence inside your home. And that's really our most important area. So we love you guys. Again, if this is something that you feel like other people want to hear or could hear or need to hear, if you've got that overshare on Facebook, maybe share this video with them. Anyway, awesome week. Be ready for battle. A lot of things are going to happen between now and next Monday's Coffee Talk. We're praying for you guys. You've got this. Take it day by day. But really, God does not want you to just survive. He wants you to thrive. And you are not alone. So we will see you guys on Facebook, on Instagram, and on our next Monday's Coffee Talk. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, and thanks, Reagan, for being here. I saw you were commenting too. She's got some good comments, guys.
Yay. I'm excited to get on there and look at it. All right, you guys.
See ya.
Bye.